How are you? Welcome to another edition of Inside Real Estate. And today we're going to talk about a question that probably not a lot of sellers are asking, but some are certainly going to start asking very soon. It's why isn't my house selling when other homes in the real estate market are selling? And so we're going to dive right into that. And I'm going to share with you the three things we're going to go over in this video. Hopefully you'll find them interesting. In this video, we're going to go through the top three reasons you're not selling. And I don't really know the reasons why your particular house is not selling, but generally all the reasons a house doesn't sell comes back to these three reasons one way or another. I'm also going to briefly talk about what to expect going forward. A big part of pricing and what you should do depends on what the market is going to do in the future. And I'll give you some tips on trying to figure out where you should be positioned based on the kinds of things that are likely to happen going forward. And the last thing we're going to talk about is how to get sold. If you're getting frustrated because you're not getting sold, then we're going to talk about how basically to evaluate your situation and figure out how we can get you sold going forward. All right, so top three reasons that people are not selling. I've seen a lot of issues with my number one reason on this list. It's poor positioning, poor marketing, right? So I mean, when the market is go, go, go the way it has been for 4 or 5 years, agents just aren't, again, as a whole, as dedicated to the craft of putting that property on the market and making sure that it is listed properly. That means having full listing sheets. It means having professional photographs. It means having floor plans. It means having good handouts at your open house, not just stuff you ran off at the printer because you were in a hurry on the way over. I mean, listen, when everything's selling the way that it has, some agents are going to take shortcuts in order to do that. And sometimes those shortcuts can become a habit, right? And so, certainly not every agent out there in this space, those that have survived several up and down cycles, are still doing the things for the most part that they should be doing. I am one of them. And they're doing that because we know that, markets, the cure for high prices is high prices. So, and that's sort of where we're going. So, but I think that most sellers should look at their online listings if you've been out there for a while and try to make an assessment as to whether or not their house looks as good as it probably could. So, the second reason that you're probably not selling is because you do not have access to the information that you need. If you're calling your agent and saying, hey, this house sold, but I didn't sell this weekend, what is going on? And the answers that you get back don't seem to make any sense. That is a red flag that perhaps your agent doesn't understand the market that you're in. Okay, there should be definitive reasons about why certain houses sell and other houses don't. I mean, not that there aren't outliers from time to time, but for the most part, the market is very rational and it makes a lot of sense. And people should be able to understand why one house would sell and another house would not. So, if you're not really getting those kinds of answers, then it's very hard for you to make the right decisions to make sure that you understand where you should be in that particular market. And along with that is a lot of agents have gotten in the habit of overpromising. They've overpromised what price they can get. They've overpromised how many offers they can get, and they've overpromised how fast this entire process is going to take. And that's a failure to set expectations about your price and sales timeline. Not everyone has the same timeline for selling a house. Not everyone has the same price, aggressive or not aggressive, in terms of what it is that they're trying to do. Listing agent should be able to explain to you in advance what your strategy is and how it is likely to play out over the coming days and weeks that your house is being listed. So, and along with that is that a lot of agents who are not used to having to give tough messages to sellers, right? That they made a mistake. They're not able to go back to the sellers and say, we made a mistake. We didn't position correctly. We are not where we need to be. We need to make changes to the house to get this price. These are all very difficult messages to get to the seller. Or we're going to be here for a while at this price, right? Just that. A lot of agents aren't interested in giving those tough messages to sellers, even though most of the time sellers are more than willing. Yes, yes, some of you will get upset in the early go, but at the end, it puts you in a better frame of mind to make better decisions. The truth always does. So, but an agent's inability to walk back their mistakes is a reason why houses don't sell, and unfortunately, we see that a lot, especially with inexperienced agents, agents who have not been doing this for a very long time. You have to remember they're probably 40, 50%, maybe even more agents have only seen the market when it was great for sellers. And so now, even though it's still very, very good for sellers, but it's a little less good than it has been. And so now we're going to start to see, whether or not those listing agents can deliver the messages that they need to. And a lot of them are going to find that that's much harder than they thought it was. And my third reason that your house is not selling is because the price is wrong. And the price could be wrong for a number of reasons, but I think for the most part, what we're really seeing in the market is sort of a return to risk. Okay, buyers are doing a much better job of evaluating the risk at a certain property. And so when I say risk, what do I mean? Well, when I think about housing, I think about a home's ideal price, what it could get at a maximum, and then a lot of times what I do is I subtract the risk factors. Does it need a new kitchen? Well, that's a risk factor. It doesn't make your house unsellable, just means it can't get the ideal price. During the pandemic, you didn't really have to make a lot of significant adjustments because the inventory was so thin, the buyers were likely to pay whatever they felt they needed to in order to secure that property. And now they're looking and they're making a much harder assessment about the kinds of risks going forward. Some of this has to do with how much the prices have gone up and how high the interest rates are. As money gets tighter, buyers get more careful with their funds. And so that is what we are seeing. So if you do a better job about understanding where your price needs to be in the market and you get better information from your listing agent about how the market is functioning in your local micro market, and you're doing the absolute maximum you can do for your marketing, then you will probably solve your house not selling problem. But what can we expect going forward? A lot of people think of the market as a static situation where once your house achieves a certain price, it is always worth that price until the market goes up again. But that is not how it works. Markets go up and down all the time in small increments as new houses come on and old houses come off the market. That constant information flow back and forth between the market and the buyers and the sellers is what makes it move, and it doesn't always go in the same direction at the same time. We can have some towns going up, some towns holding firm, and some towns going down all at the same time, and that is totally normal. And so we are seeing some of that, right? At the end of the day, what we can expect for sure is that the buyers have gotten more cautious and they've been rewarded for the first time in a long time by being more cautious because they are seeing the riskier houses not selling. And that means that they are coming down in price. So that rewards the buyers. It encourages them to go even slower because they think that the market might actually come in a little bit and make it easier for them to purchase a house. I think, as a general rule, homes that have significant risk factors, and significant is a big word. I think if you have minor risk factors, I don't think the market cares very much about that at the moment. But if you have significant risk factors, you may have to adjust your price in order to get sold. And I would encourage you to do that because I'm not really sure that we're going to go back to the pandemic market. Hi, pardon the interruption. This is Matt Heiser from Vanderbilt Properties. And if you're liking this video and you feel like you're getting some good information out of it, what I'd like to do is create other videos that you can also get good information out of. So please remember to like and subscribe this video. And if you are in the market or you're thinking about buying and selling a house in my area, which includes Massachusetts and Rhode Island, don't forget to watch this video all the way to the end so that you can take advantage of the special offer I am offering folks. Having said that, if the economy continues to hold up and demand and we continue to get job growth and inflation stays cool, the last couple of inflation reports have been really good, and sellers stick to the typical listing cycle, which is they list a lot of homes in the spring, but not nearly as many in the summer and fall. If we stick to that typical listing pattern, then what we'll see is that the market is going to tighten up as we go through the summer. And that means for some of you who are on the edge of getting sold, you're a little bit too high, but not really all that much. You have a very good chance of getting sold later, and all you have to do is stay put. But that does depend on the market continuing to get tighter, and all of those things sort of need to happen. I will tell you that if what we see instead is that inflation heats up, well, that is going to be bad. And that's going to be bad because, first of all, it's a bad headline, and buyers don't like bad headlines. The second thing is it's going to take the buyers away from looking at houses and start getting them focused on tariffs. And as we saw just a little while ago, if they're watching the news about tariffs and not buying houses, that's not particularly good for the market. We've already been through that once this year. It could certainly happen again. But mostly, if inflation heats up, then the Fed can't do the one thing that really needs to happen to support housing prices, and that's cut rates. Instead, rates have been going in the other direction. They are as high as they have been in several months. And so that is not going to help the pricing. So I think for every seller, you need to sort of evaluate your situation. And if your goal is to sell soon, you may need to get more aggressive in the short term about the price that you're willing to accept. So now we're going to jump into the last version of this overview with which is just a very brief overview on how to get sold. And I think the first thing every seller should do if they're not happy with the response that their house got on the market is you need to reevaluate your online listing. What does it really look like? Right? Does it look as good as the other listings that are out there on the market? It should. Does it have all the information about your house that you would like it to have? It should. If it doesn't, that is a red flag. Not giving buyers information leads to them being cautious. Cautious buyers do not pay the maximum amount for their house that they might be able to do. So we don't want caution. We want aggressive buyers. The way to do that is to have a pretty listing, right? That's why we spend all that time on photography and floor plans and all those other things. You may also want to go back and reevaluate your property. Maybe when you were super optimistic about how fast it would sell, you weren't nearly as picky about the things that you might need to be picky about. Maybe your listing agent didn't really tell you to change anything because you didn't need to. But maybe now that it's not selling, you need to go back and find one or two or three things that are probably blocking people from selling it and see if you can fix them. Sometimes they're very easy to do. Sometimes it's painting a room or changing out a carpet, things that only take a weekend and not a lot of time or money, especially with house prices with where they are. Sometimes that's the difference between sold and not sold. But you're not going to know unless you use this time to go back and reevaluate your property, preferably with someone who understands how to get your house sold. But also, you need to understand what's going on in your micro market. So, your micro market, as I define it, is your house type, a small range of similar houses in your particular town. That's your micro market. What is your micro market doing? Is everyone sitting around not selling? Or some people selling and you're not? If that's the case, then you need to really start to understand why those houses are selling and you're not. Understanding your micro market tells you a lot about where everybody else is positioned and what is happening and what is likely to happen going forward. That kind of information is super powerful for sellers, and you really do need to understand it if you're going to make the best decision for you. Lastly, you should decide whether or not you need to adjust the price or not considering your timeline. I mean, if you're in a hurry, maybe you want to cut the price, but you also want to look at the competitive backdrop. Are you the last house standing? Do you expect to be the last house standing in a month or two? Those kinds of things determine whether or not you should cut the price or not. Cutting the price is very expensive and you shouldn't do it unless you have to. I mean, a $10,000 price cut for most people is 3 months of mortgage payments. That's 90 days of waiting. So for the most of the time, cutting the price should be a reassessment of what it is you need to do and how fast you need to do it, right? Ultimately, we don't really want to do a lot of price cuts. It means that we did the wrong steps in the beginning. So I do want to let people know that even if your house is sitting around, it really shouldn't be. Houses can still be sold in this market. It is still very, very favorable for sellers. We are still setting record prices in a lot of different areas for a lot of different stuff. So it's still a really, really good market. So if you're thinking, well, maybe if I don't sell this spring, I'll sell next year, I would tell you to be very cautious about that. I don't know what next year is going to look like. This year sort of looked one way and has started out to be very, very different. Next year, we really don't know. So prices are as likely to go up as they are to go down, in my opinion. I think the most likely scenario is that they stay flat. But if you're trying to move now, there's no reason to wait if your goal is to get the same money next year. If you're still going to have to go out there and cut prices, you might as well just do it now. But I think if you go back and do these steps that I talked about, which is to reevaluate your online listing, reevaluate your property, evaluate what's happening in your micro market, I think you are much more likely to make the best decision for you. And those are the kinds of things that will allow you to make the best decision for selling your house this year or next. If you have any questions about this, you're welcome to hit me up in the comments. Take care.